Okay, let's follow up a little bit with this COVID-19 now, see if we can backtrace anything or get an insight in anything. So, guys, please subscribe, like, and share. Once you subscribe to us, we'll always see to it that we provide you and update you with the latest release videos that they have circulating. Now, these videos don't necessarily share our views, but this is just information for the general public to see and hear, because this is a free world, so it's free information.
8 medical staff diagnosed with the CCP virus in one of Harbin City's main hospitals. An exclusive recording obtained by NTD reveals the poor practices leading up to it. A missing citizen journalist in China has reappeared in a new video, but many are questioning if he is truly okay now. A new French report delves into concerns surrounding the Wuhan P4 lab, pointing out troubling patterns through the years. Pressure is mounting in the UK as many urge the country to rethink its relationship with the Chinese regime. We take a deep dive into the UK's economic ties to China and see where things might be heading amidst this pandemic. And more European markets reporting defective personal protective equipment, or PPE, coming from China. Find out the impact it's having on medical staff. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. There's speculation that the Wuhan Institute of Virology could be the origin of the CCP virus. It's a P4 lab, the highest biosafety level. Radio France investigated how France helped China to build the lab in 2004, but was then excluded from the project. The idea was to fight infectious diseases together, but the move caused concern in France. The article said China refused to tell France what happened to the mobile P3 laboratories that were funded by French government after the SARS epidemic in 2003. China's lack of transparency made the French uneasy. So some in the French government thought problems would also come with the P4 lab project. In 2015, France gave up its co-chairmanship position on the commission that supervised the P4 lab, describing the lab as a very Chinese tool. In 2017, France announced that 50 French researchers would reside there for 5 years, but this didn't happen in the end. No reason was given. The Washington Post reported in January 2018 that the American embassy visited the lab and saw it was studying bat coronaviruses. They said the lab's security measures were insufficient and alerted Washington. Li Zhihua, a Chinese citizen journalist, posted a video on social media on April 22nd. It's his first video since going missing in Wuhan nearly 2 months ago. He went to Wuhan in February to report on what he saw there. On February 26th, he was arrested by police. In his latest video, he described what happened to him since then. He first was chased by a car of unknown people. He posted this live on social media. He was then taken away by police and accused of disrupting public order. He stayed overnight at the police station.
Over the course of those 24 hours, I sat on an iron stool and talked to many different police officers.
The police then told him that he will not be punished, but because he had been in a virus hotspot, he had to be quarantined in Wuhan for 14 days. Once he arrived at the quarantine, his phone and electronic devices were taken away.
期间，一日有3餐，安全有守卫，每天都能看新闻联播。
Lee didn't criticize the authorities in the video. One netizen commenting, "This video looks like a hostage reading a manuscript, but as long as you're safe, it's good." Sweden's second largest city, Gothenburg, is canceling its sister city relationship with Shanghai. The two have been tied for 34 years. It comes after Sweden shut down all Confucius institutes in the country, the first European state to do so. There's a new movement growing in Italy of people wanting to sue the Chinese regime for the pandemic. An online petition just launched lets Italians affected by the virus seek compensation from Beijing. The head of the organization behind the movement, One Europe, estimates over 500,000 will sign, and the compensation sought could exceed 100 billion euros. And a popular hotel in the Italian Alps is also suing China for damages. It says China failed to inform the WHO in a timely manner, causing the pandemic to spiral out of control. The hotel was fully booked for the ski season, but suffered devastating losses as all hotels were forced to close on March 12th. This follows lawsuits from India and some U.S. states. British think tank Henry Jackson Society published a 44-page report analyzing the legal basis for suing Beijing over the virus. And China announced today it will give another $30 million to the WHO. This comes just days after President Trump said the U.S. would freeze funding. The U.S. was the organization's biggest contributor, giving a whopping $893 million between 2018 and 2019. China gave $86 million over the same time period. China's state-run media recently announced 8 medical staff were diagnosed with the CCP virus at one of the main hospitals in Harbin City. An exclusive recording obtained by NTD reveals poor management practices could be facilitating the rapid spread of the virus in hospitals. NTD's Xiwen Rong has the details.
A report published by Chinese state-run media on April 22nd said 2 doctors and 6 nurses were diagnosed with the virus at a major hospital in Harbin City. More than 200 medical staff from the hospital were under observation in quarantine centers. Around 190 others were sent home to self-quarantine. Only about 130 remained working in the hospital. The same hospital announced 2 days earlier it would not take any more new patients because of recent virus infections at the hospital. NTD obtained an exclusive internal recording of a meeting among medical staff at that hospital earlier this month. The tape revealed an emergency patient at Harbin's other main hospital was transferred to the respiratory ward and later diagnosed with the CCP virus. Staff at the meeting added this person infected patients in that department, as well as medical staff. A family member of one of Harbin Hospital's staff told us Harbin City and Heilongjiang Province officials have been terrified since they were held accountable for the virus spreading. The officials pushed that pressure onto the community and started treating Harbin like a second Wuhan.
It's hard to live now. They are sealing our doors. Even if they don't seal our doors, we don't dare to go out. The people see us as poison. They are all afraid.
Mr. Xiao's wife works in the cafeteria at a hospital in Harbin's Daoli district. She's been quarantined for 7 or 8 days in the hospital, even though her nucleic acid test came back negative. Now Mr. Xiao is also being forced to quarantine at home. The authorities padlocked his front door from the outside.
The door of the house is sealed to prevent me from going out. My daughter brings me groceries. I call her, and she passes it to me through the window.
Similarly, videos circulating online appear to show residential areas in Harbin forced into lockdown. Some netizens are angry about the way the regime handled the lockdown, saying they don't treat people like people, locking them inside. What if they got sick? What if a fire broke out? Another netizen said the history of Wuhan is now repeating in Harbin. State media reported that one man spread the virus to 78 people from Harbin, other cities in Heilongjiang province, as well as people from other provinces. Reporting by Xiwen Rong, NTD News.
The UK is among the hardest hit places in this pandemic, and its prime minister is the first head of state to contract the virus. Today, we take a deep dive into the UK's economic ties with China and see where things might be heading amidst this pandemic.
Voices are rising in the UK, urging its government to rethink its ties to China. The calls come over the regime's mishandling of the pandemic.
But there's no doubt we can't have business as usual after this crisis, and we'll have to ask the hard questions about how it came about and how it couldn't have been stopped earlier.
Just 5 years ago, then Prime Minister David Cameron declared the beginning of a golden era for the UK-China relationship.
So this visit marks the start of a new era. Some have called it a golden era in relations between Britain and China.
In 2015, the UK threw a lavish welcome for the Chinese regime's leader, Xi Jinping. Cameron even took Xi out for a pint. By the end of Xi's visit, The two countries signed over $60 billion worth of deals. Under Cameron and then Finance Minister George Osborne, the UK left its door wide open for Chinese money and pushed for closer economic ties.
There is no economy in the West that is as open to Chinese investment as the United Kingdom. You know, we welcome Chinese investment. There is huge amounts of Chinese investment coming into Britain at the moment. Indeed, we're attracting more investment than Germany, France and Italy put together into the UK.
The flagship UK project funded by Chinese investment was a new nuclear power station at Hinkley Point in southwest England. Chinese state-owned company China General Nuclear Power Group, or CGN, took a one-third stake in the $28 billion plant, which was built by a French group.
We've created a model where we can attract Chinese investment into civil nuclear power.
In return, CGN was allowed to build and operate its own facility at another site. The project was highly controversial. One of the main risks, handing some control over critical British infrastructure to China. When former UK Prime Minister Theresa May took over, the project was put on hold for review, though it was eventually given the green light. But last year, new questions emerged about CGN's involvement when the company was blacklisted by the US Commerce Department for attempting to steal nuclear technology. Chinese investment in the UK covers many areas, from the famous London black cabs to Heathrow Airport, from Barclays Bank to Thames Water. But it's most often focused in the energy sector. Chinese investment peaked in 2017, reaching $20 billion. In comparison, the Netherlands received less than $4 billion, and Germany less than $2 billion in the same year. Aside from investment, trade between Britain and China also doubled within a decade. And with the UK now out of the European Union, Downing Street is free to hammer out a new trade deal with China.
Our ambition is for more trade, not less trade. And China clearly shares this ambition.
Some UK officials have said the country is China's best partner in the West. It was the...
Okay, so we're gonna stop here, then restart with the continuation of this video.